Hey guys, so I know a lot of you out there are pretty skeptical about the ketogenic diet. You have a lot of concerns and have a lot of different questions about the ketogenic diet. So I wanted to create a video to sort of bust the myths that are out there and answer a lot of you guys' questions. So let's get started. One of the number one concerns I hear a lot of people talk about is ketoacidosis. So first of all, I want to start off by saying ketoacidosis is a completely different thing than ketosis. Ketosis is where your body is put into a different state of an energy source where it's running off of ketones instead of glucose. And ketoacidosis is a medical condition that can happen mostly to type 1 diabetics and sometimes to type 2 diabetics. What is happening in a ketoacidosis state is your ketones are extremely elevated as well as your blood glucose. So this happens whenever your insulin doesn't react like a normal person's insulin would. So this can actually happen to anyone, whether they're on a ketogenic diet or not, who isn't properly monitoring their insulin levels. So if you do start a ketogenic diet and you are diabetic, or if you start any diet for that matter, or just in general, you need to make sure that you're monitoring your insulin and making sure you're taking proper doses. I also recommend following up with your doctor and just let them know that you are on a low sugar diet. A lot of people do have to end up lowering their insulin medications that they get because keto is so great for diabetics and helps regulate your sugar. A ketoacidosis state happens when your ketones are elevated to 15 millimolars, like 10, 15, high numbers like that. The highest I've ever seen my ketones get is 1.6 millimolars, and that's me really trying hard. A normal ketosis range is anywhere from 0.5 to 3.0 millimolars. I've seen people up with as high as like 5, maybe 7 at the most, but that's a very rare case and not very typical. Since I'm not diabetic, I physically could not put myself into a ketoacidosis state if I tried. So yeah, that's something I really wouldn't worry about if you are, like I said, a type 1 or even a type 2 diabetic. You need to be monitoring your insulin anyways, so it's not something you have to worry about extra on a ketogenic diet. The next concern I hear a lot of people talk about is sugar. So I've heard people say, sugar is good for you, your body needs glucose. Are you insane? Sugar is not good for you. In what way is sugar good for you? Yes, there are certain aspects in your body where you do need glucose. However, your body is perfectly capable of creating glucose on its own through gluconeogenesis. So this process is where the body can take some excess protein you have and convert it into glucose, and your body can make all the glucose it needs by doing that. There is actually no physical need for carbohydrates in your diet whatsoever. I hear a lot of people talk about how keto is bad for your kidneys. This is just crazy to me. I think keto kind of gets a bad rep because a lot of people who are practicing keto aren't doing it necessarily the correct way. They're, lowering their calories too low or eating too much protein. And it's really the high protein that is causing the kidney issues. So keto is actually a moderate protein diet. It's not a high protein diet. And then I think another misconception is a lot of people think that you need a whole bunch of protein to lose weight. But in reality, you really don't need as much protein as everyone is saying. There's bodybuilders out there that eat 20% protein or below. So I think that alone proves that they're able to gain all of this muscle and eat so limited amounts of protein. It just really isn't as necessary as everyone's thinking. And eating all this extra protein can be really hard on your body, especially your kidneys, because protein isn't like carbohydrates or fat where the body can easily use it for fuel. Protein has to be broken down into something else, glucose, so the body can actually either store it as fat or use it as energy. So when you eat a lot of protein in excess where your body doesn't need all of that, it has to work extra hard to break it down. And in return, it actually causes an insulin response and a blood sugar spike, which is why I think a lot of people have a hard time losing weight on a typical diet because they're having an insulin response, and which is causing their body to actually store fat because they're eating so much protein. Another concern I hear a lot of people have is that a ketogenic diet is too expensive. And yeah, I get it. You're eating a lot of whole foods on a ketogenic diet, and whole foods are just naturally expensive. but you do eat a lot less food than you would on a normal carbohydrate diet. My boyfriend and I lived together for a few years while we were in college, and eventually I convinced him to go keto with me. So we were both going full on keto. And, it took us a couple of months to get our pantry and our refrigerator and everything completely converted to keto. But after we did that, we were amazed by how low our weekly or bi-weekly grocery bill was. We noticed it literally cut in half. So we don't really have to buy as much food as someone who eats a lot of carbs would. Anyone who knows my boyfriend, they know that he eats a lot. He's like a bottomless pit. So buying groceries for him especially could be very expensive. So I was amazed by how much money we ended up saving. And you can make this lifestyle as cheap as you'd like. I mean, we were both college students when we started out. Literally the first couple weeks, I swear I lived off of eggs because eggs were so cheap. So yeah, you don't have to buy all the fancy ingredients and all the fancy things. What I would do is just every paycheck, I would set aside a little bit of money and buy an ingredient or something special that I was waiting and saving up to buy. And a lot of times those specialty items that you do buy will last you months. I mean, I still have items I've bought since the beginning of starting keto back in December that are still good and still usable. So yeah, like I said, you can just make it as difficult, make it as expensive, make it as cheap as you'd like. It doesn't have to be this crazy expensive thing. And really, starting any diet is going to cost you money at first. I mean, if you're going from eating potato chips and potatoes and bread to eating a whole food-based diet in general, you're going to have to put some money into it. You're eating a whole new set of food items. So yeah, there's always going to be that initial cost no matter what diet you're starting. They say that high fat causes cholesterol issues and high fat causes you to gain weight. So the first thing I have to say to that is don't blame the butter for what the bread did. So everyone out there, is thinking that high fat is bad for you, but in reality, we're ignoring the high amounts of sugar that we're eating on a daily basis. There's a good documentary on Netflix right now called Sugar Coated. This video is really cool because it shows the families trying really hard to get their families healthy and help their children and help them lose weight. And they're buying all these low-fat items and trying to feed their children low-calorie diets. But what they're not realizing is all these low-fat items and low-calorie items are packed full of sugar just to make them taste good. These parents are super frustrated. They're trying to be great parents and they're trying to help their kids get healthy, but they're just following these typical American guidelines and having no success. And in return, their kids are actually gaining more weight and becoming more unhealthy and actually developing diabetes at a really young age. But if we actually go back and look at the studies that were done that tell us that fat causes high cholesterol and fat causes weight gain, you can see that the people that they ran the studies on, they were eating high fat diets, but they were also eating high carbohydrate diets. So they were eating things like donuts, which obviously are, they're high in fat, but they're also super high in carbohydrates. So they didn't take that into consideration for the studies. That alone is proving all these studies to be wrong. Now, I'm not saying that all fat is good fat. There's a lot of fats out there that are really bad for your body. These are fats that we have used as substitutes for fat. So things like margarine or Crisco or vegetable oil, canola oil is really iffy. All of these substitute fats are actually really bad for our bodies. We want to be eating full fat foods, full fat cream, full fat cheese, real butter, avocados, healthy nuts. We want to be eating all the natural healthy fats. So talking about cholesterol, yes, your cholesterol may go up on this diet, but it's going to be your total cholesterol. Your good cholesterol will actually go up and your bad cholesterol will go down, causing your total cholesterol to actually possibly go up. You really want to look at your triglycerides and see what they're doing. That's a better indication of your health that way. If you're still super concerned about your cholesterol on this diet, there's actually a lot of misconceptions about cholesterol. So I highly recommend reading the book Cholesterol Clarity by Jimmy Moore, and there's a lot of great information in there and gives you a really good insight on the truth about cholesterol. So there's some people out there that say ketogenic diets only work for weight loss because you're restricting your calories. That is completely false. So before doing keto, I was trying 1,010 different diets, and most of them involved calorie restriction. So there's at one point I was following the typical bodybuilder diet, and I was also restricting my calories, and I was eating very low calorie, like probably around 1,000 calories at that point. And I was actually still gaining weight while eating only 1,000 calories a day, which is crazy. But on a ketogenic diet, I actually ended up almost doubling my calories. I eat closer to 2,000 calories now every day, and I lost all of my weight doing that, 30 pounds. So yeah, keto is not calorie restriction whatsoever. If you do see people restricting their calories on keto, they're not doing it the safest way. Say that keto is not natural and it's not something that we want our bodies to be in. So I have something for you guys to think about. So a newborn baby, if it is strictly breastfed, it is actually in and out of the state of ketosis the whole time while being strictly breastfed, and more often is in ketosis. Now you're probably wondering, why is that? Breast milk has sugar in it. Yes, breast milk does have a little bit of carbs, a little bit of sugar in it, but it's actually mostly fat. So a baby's natural state is to be in ketosis. It's not actually until the baby is weaned off of breast milk and onto the baby food that we prepare for it that it exits ketosis forever. And if you think about it, a lot of the formulas that aren't breast milk are created to have a lot of carbs in them, and a lot of the first baby foods have a lot of carbohydrates. They're packed with a lot of fruits. Those little baby puff snacks that you feed babies they're just like little carbohydrate balls. They're just filled with carbs. All the juices toddlers are supposed to be drinking, and all those little applesauce pouches. I mean, a child's diet is just packed full of sugar. They're eating way too much fruit. It's insane how much sugar we feed toddlers. So ketones are actually really beneficial to babies. It's really beneficial to brain development. So I actually recommend keto for all ages. There's no restriction on it, whether you're a baby or an adult. Keto is safe. I'm not saying that we were meant to be in ketosis all the time, but I'm saying that it's a very natural state for our body, and it's really beneficial to be in the state of ketosis. So to sum up this whole video, I just want you guys to realize that there's a lot of articles out there on the internet. You're going to read a lot of bad articles out there that are against the ketogenic diet, but you're going to read a lot of bad articles out there that are against any diet and really anything that you read in general. There's a lot of really great articles out there that are for the ketogenic diet, and their science just makes so much more sense to me than the science that is against the diets. You're also going to have a lot of doctors and a lot of nutritionists that don't really understand the diet and haven't done enough research on the diet to know about it, that are going to be against it, and they're only going to go off of what they've heard, from years ago when they were in school, or from the outdated research that is taught to them still today through their schooling. The sad truth is that most of these professionals don't keep up to date on the current research, and you can tell almost immediately whenever they're completely against the ketogenic diet that they haven't done any real research on the subject, because I can guarantee they would probably be more for the diet if they had done real research on it. My mother and I followed our doctor's recommendations for years, trying to get healthier, only to make things worse. It wasn't until we finally decided to go against everything our doctor said that we completely turned around and changed our lives. I'm not saying that you should go against everything your doctor tells you, but I'm saying that you should be very mindful of your health and never be afraid to get a second opinion or a third opinion or so on, and always do your own research on a serious topic like this. This is your body after all, and this is your health. No one's going to care more about it than yourself. I hope this video answered some of your questions and concerns about a ketogenic diet. I really hope you consider giving this lifestyle a chance so you can start seeing the amazing benefits that myself and many, many others have already seen. Keto on!